All right, hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another session here in Readers Magnet's featured author interview. My name is Leah, and I am your host for today. And with me is one of the Readers Magnet's featured author, and of course, one of our most valuable author. And today we are very happy and
Hi,
honored
Elaine.
because he will be sharing to us what this book is all about, him as an author, and of course the inspiration behind it. So yes, everyone, let's all welcome our one and only Mr. Edward R. Lipinski, author of the book Werewolf on Madison Avenue. Hi, Edward. How are you
Hi,
doing?
hi, Leah. I'm doing fine. Right now, is the weather is beautiful out here in New York, but we're expecting a
Mm-hmm.
snowstorm. But anyway, that's
Wow, that's good.
well. Anyway, let's put that aside and talk about the book.
Absolutely. And you know what, Edward? I'm very excited to have this discussion with you because, I've been hearing a lot of good stuff from your consultant, of course, Jess as well, which is your project manager. So, yes, let's get it on. But here, before we tackle about your book, Edward, can you maybe tell us a bit information about who Edward Lipinski is?
Oh, okay. Well, one of my favorite subjects. Uh, I've been when I got out of the Air Force, I was a missile launch officer in the Air Force, and
Mm,
when I got out of the Air Force, I got into publishing and advertising as a graphic designer, as an illustrator. And I did illustration and design for a number of the advertising agencies, never the big ones, but the smaller minor agencies. And also I worked for publishing, Macmillan, Reader's Digest. I was about to say Reader's Magnet, Reader's Digest, um,
mm,
and among others, Simon and Schuster. And then I had a chance in 1995 to write a column for the New York Times. So I got away from just doing illustration and design to also doing writing. I wrote and illustrated the New York Times home improvement column for over 5 years. And I have a number of books out besides Werewolf on Madison Avenue. Werewolf is my first novel, fiction work, but I had a children's book,
mm.
which is available also on Amazon.com, and a book on home improvement, the New York Times Home Repair Almanac, and another book on tile installation, which are also available on Amazon.com. But as I said, Werewolf on Madison Avenue is my first novel, first
Mm.
work of fiction.
All right.
Mhm.
Wow, that is very fascinating, Edward. To also get the chance to know about you as an author, what you have been through, what are the things that you're currently doing, and wow, that's really a lot. And we are very honored as well that you chose Readers Magnet to be part of this journey. Thank you so much for that, Edward.
Well, it was partly chance and partly luck, but it's I thought it was a very fortuitous and gratifying relationship, and I'm very happy to be working with you people.
Thank you so much, Edward. And yes, really appreciate you stating that. And we're very happy as well here with Readers Magnet to also have you. And yes, this is the moment that we've been waiting for because it's now the time to know more about your book. But before we do that, Edward, do you have your book with you right now? Will you
No, I
please
don't.
show it to our readers?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yours.
There's a reason why I don't have it. It's because it was originally published by another publisher, and the picture on the
Mm,
cover was uh, designed and drawn, illustrated by me. When Reader's Magnet took it over, they decided to republish the book. They gave a
mm-hmm.
very handsome interior design, and they changed the cover. I haven't received that yet. So
Mm-hmm.
it should be coming out very soon. And another thing they're going to put
Yes, it
beside the
is.
new illustration, which was designed by Reader's Magnet, is also some quotes. We've gotten some very good reviews, and so there'll be some quotes from those reviews on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a state of limbo now. I just have that one issue or that one book. But if I showed it to people, they might look for that, and might be surprised to find out that there's a whole different book out there. So to answer your question, no, I don't have it yet. I expect to have it in a couple of weeks. The new book.
Okay, all right, that's totally fine, Edward. That's totally fine. But yes, it's okay. You don't have your book with you right now, but yes, this is the moment that we've been waiting for because we wanted to know some information about your book. Now, let's start with the title. It says Werewolf on Madison Avenue. So, can you
That's
tell us
correct.
more about that? When did
Well,
it started? What's the inspiration behind it?
the title tells it all, almost all. Werewolf is about a werewolf. Most people know about lycanthropy, and Madison
Mm-hmm.
Avenue is synonymous with advertising, just as Wall Street is synonymous with finance and money. Now, the book starts off with a young man, Jeff Foxlove, who wants to be in the advertising world, and he has high hopes for it. He's just read the book Ogilvy on Advertising, written by David Ogilvy, and it's a very good book talking about the high-minded approach to advertising campaigns. Unfortunately, he gets involved in a smaller advertising agency called the Cudmore Advertising Agency, run by Damon
Mm-hmm.
Cudmore. Damon Cudmore is an unscrupulous um, schlockmeister who has absolutely no taste whatsoever. And he has some rather, well, I wouldn't say dubious clients, but he has clients that work on a very, not a very glamorous product. For example, incontinence, diarrhea, constipation. Well, I won't go on, but you get the idea. So, and those are his clients, and he sells to them by using any means possible. Um, Now
Mm-hmm.
along comes Jeff Foxlove, a young, idealistic man who wants very much to be in advertising. And Damon Cudmore sees that this man has potential. He can mold him in his own image, the way he wants him to write advertising copy.
Whoa.
Now, this works out fine for a couple of years, but then Jeff Foxlove realizes he needs a vacation. So he goes to the
Mm-hmm.
Yucatan Peninsula. And at night, he goes into the jungle thinking that this would be a sublime treat to capture the beauty of the jungle. Unfortunately, in the jungle is the creature of the night. Villagers warn him about that, which is basically a werewolf. He gets attacked in the middle of the night because it's the night of the full moon. He gets attacked by the creature and bitten, and he
Mm-hmm.
becomes a werewolf. Now, a werewolf is an unusual character, an unusual monster. We think of the five big monsters in movies and fiction. The first one is Dracula. The second one is
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein. Then there's the Wolf Man or the werewolf. Then there's the lesser two, the Invisible Man and the creature of the Black Lagoon. Now, all of them, except for the werewolf, have one thing in common. They're monsters 24/7. They're always a monster. But the werewolf is only a monster one night of the month, on the night of the full moon. So he can be a
Mm-hmm.
monster and still keep his day job. And that's what this is all about. Jeff Foxlove becomes a werewolf, but he's able to stay within the advertising world. Unfortunately, the night of the full moon does come up, and he has to go out and pray because he's a predatory beast. After a night of killing of just two people, he decides he wants to give himself up. But wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
His boss, Damon Cudmore, says, no, no, you can't do that because you're a good copywriter. And he promises,
Taking advantage. Well.
that's right. So he promises to find a way to keep Jeff from killing. He can't stop him from becoming a werewolf, but he can stop him from killing. And he does that, and he realizes that maybe there's a chance to use the werewolf in advertising, use him for shaving commercials, hair shampoos, and he does launch a campaign, which proves to be quite successful. But the trouble is, the predatory nature of the werewolf keeps coming back, and Jeff Foxlove realizes he cannot be both. He's got to find a way to lift the curse of the werewolf. And through a fortune teller, an amusing character in her own
Mm-hmm.
right, he finds out that there may be a cure. He's not sure, but there may be a cure, but it lies deep within the Yucatan Peninsula, in the jungles where the creature of the night dwells. And in order to lift the curse, he's got to go back to find if he can, in fact, find that magical cure. And that's what the book is about. Now, at this point, viewers are going to say, "Well, does he do
Wow.
it?" Um, that's what the book is all about. So I leave it
Mm.
to you to find out, find the answer.
Right. That is really such a mind blowing story, Edward. I can't really imagine how do you come up with such story, but I like how the story goes. From a young boy who's trying to reach his goals, a very intelligent one. To be that someone who's very successful when it comes to advertisement, and there's this man who took advantage of his capabilities, and then the adventure begins. Wow, I
Yes,
like that.
but it's a horror story, but it's also got a lot of humor into it. The advertising part of
Mhm.
the whole thing and the characters that he runs into are humorous. That caricatures of the advertising world. So and the reviewers have picked this up. It's a good. It's got some very funny moments in it, and it's got some very serious moments of horror. So it's a
Uh-huh.
combination of both.
Wow, that's nice because somehow there's also an entertainment, right? A
Yes.
mystery thriller entertainment. I like
If,
that.
if I was to say what the reader can expect to come away with, I would say entertainment, the joy of
Hmm.
reading. There are some laughs in it. I don't know if they're real knee slappers,
That's
but there are
nice.
laughs and chuckles, and there's moments of real horror too.
Hmm. Wow, that's a big word. I like that, Edward. Now, when it comes to the title of the book, I like that because the idea is already in there. And how did you come up with the names in the story? Is the character also based on real people? Let's say, someone that was taken advantage of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the advertising part of it is not based on any one particular person, but a composite of
Hmm.
different people that I met when I was working in advertising. None of them
Mm,
are as overzealous and conniving as Damon Cudmore. It's almost like if you read Catch 22, it's a parody on the military, and anyone who's been in the military sees glimpses of the people in the book. The same thing with Werewolf on Advertising, Werewolf on Madison Avenue. The caricatures of the people in the advertising world are there. Now, as to whether or not the werewolf, I've never met a real werewolf, so I can't really say for sure. As to how I
right.
came up with this when I was working in advertising or something, I sometimes ran across these characters who sometimes seem so
Hmm.
overzealous that you wonder where their sense of proportion was. And I
Right.
wonder what would happen if maybe they got involved with someone who was a situation that was a bit extreme. That's where the werewolf came in. Now, exactly why I thought of the werewolf, I can't really say. There was no eureka moment when I said, a werewolf is just what we need for this story. That's right.
Right.
The snap of the fingers, the light bulb going off in my brain. No, it was just somehow it came together. Um,
Hmm. And it really completed the piece. Now, that being said, Edward, we also wanted to know, can you share to us the events that said, let's say, what really led you into writing? The courage. Where is it coming from? As well as let's say the inspiration of pushing yourself, sharing this piece. Yeah. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, that's a little more difficult because there was one moment, was not one moment. When I started off in um, graphic design, illustration, and art
Mm-hmm.
direction, it was a very creative environment. So I started writing and illustrating, and I got the idea for a children's book, which I wrote and I illustrated. And I can't say exactly when. I just thought I'd like to try to do that, mainly because I thought maybe at one time I would like to have been a cartoonist or something. But anyway, so I wrote that, and then I was very content doing illustration. I started to get into a lot of technical illustration, which means
Mm.
drawing automotive parts, home improvement, scientific illustration. And I was
Wow.
doing one of my clients was the New York Times, and they had two columns on home improvement, and I was illustrating both of them. They dropped one column before and then they had the other column, which I was working on. And then the writer for that column decided to leave to go to other greener pastures, and they were going to drop the column
Mhm.
because they didn't have a writer. And at that time, I stepped forward and said, well, since I had been in college and I had studied writing, exposition mainly, and some creative writing, I said, let me try it. And I did. And the column was successful for 5 years. I had the double byline of being the author and the illustrator. And when
Wow.
the New York Times decided to drop the column, not for any reason of quality, but just because the New York Times was going through hard times, they dropped a number of their columns. I had the idea for writing books, and I sat down and decided to write a novel, and another
Mhm.
novel, and another novel, and I tried to get them published. I had an agent, but at that time, agents weren't really, publishing companies weren't really interested in the um, unknown writer, and so the books stay on the shelf for many years. And
Mhm.
then the era of self-publishing came around in the 21st century, and I decided that
Right.
now was the time to pull the book out and try to do it myself. That's what's happening.
Mhm. Right. So that's when it all started. And look at you now, Edward. I can tell that you are really a man of, a lot of talent that was really uncovered for today. And I like that. Why? Because, from your own experience, also sharing it to people, we really appreciate that, Edward. Now, I wanted you to also, we also wanted to know, Edward, what do you want your readers to take away, let's say, after reading your book?
Well, the main thing when you write a novel or when you write anyway, it's one of the arts. There are seven arts if you want to count motion pictures, eight arts. And the whole point of indulging in the arts is for entertainment, for and in some cases a sense of catharsis and empathy with characters. And
Mm-hmm.
in literature, that's really what you're talking about. The reader has to read the paragraphs, the sentences, the story, and kind of imagine the setting as opposed to a play or a motion picture where this is already presented for them. And what the writer tries to do is give the reader a real experience. Perhaps it's one of joy, perhaps it's one of laughter, perhaps it's one of romance. But that's what I try to do. So I would like the reader to come away with this feeling after having read the book that they enjoyed it, that it was a really good book, and it was worth their time and effort.
Right, that's awesome, Edward. And also, Edward, let's say, in your own words, you being an author, a successful creative, being creative for these kind of piece, a writer, an illustrator. How do you think, let's say, writing this kind of books empowers individuals, especially to aspiring authors out there? To, let's say, really have that courage in their sharing, in sharing their experiences in writing. So, how would you
Well,
encourage them?
well, it's it starts off when you have the inspiration and the dream, and it's very nice to follow the dream and to have. And there are places out there like Reader's Magnet that are willing to work with authors and to help them realize that dream. But it's not an easy path. In the first place, it's easy enough to get published. There are a number of companies out there that will publish a book, but what they do with the book afterwards is a matter of concern. For example, some publishers, you'll publish a book and they'll ask how many copies you want, and you'll say maybe 1,000 copies. And then someday a truck arrives at the doorstep and drops 1,000 copies on your doorstep, and then you have a crate of books in your living room or garage. It's easy to get a book published, but it's harder to get the book in front of the public, and that's the real challenge. You've probably heard the old conundrum that if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear the sound, does it really make a sound? Well, you could apply that to book publishing. If an author publishes a book and no one reads it, did they really publish a book? So, what an author has to realize when they're beginning is it's not a total dream world. There's a lot of pitfalls involved, a lot of challenges. First of all, there's the cost, and then there's the arduous task of getting your work and yourself before the public. And for that, you need a very good marketing agent, because it's beyond the scope, in my opinion, beyond the scope of any one individual.
Right. And also to, let's say, to not just focus on the destination, but also focus on the journey, the process. Yeah, that is very helpful, Mr. Edward.
Yeah,
And you know what? Again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
now it is very rewarding to sit down and write and create your image and put it down on paper, or in this case on a screen, and actually see it in print, and it's very good. And it's also very rewarding if someone reads your book and says, I read it, I really liked it, and it was good." That's a very warm feeling. Of course, there's always a negative feeling that, that if the book didn't come out very well. Uh, but anyway, we
Hmm.
won't talk about that. We have high hopes. But then again, when it comes to the actual marketing, it takes quite a bit of commitment. So authors have to be aware of that.
Thank you so much for that, Edward. And you know what, Edward, going back to your book, what one thing that I really like, just to also share my thoughts, I really like the idea on how you also show in this book on how to, let's say, for encouraging people to not let someone, take advantage of them, on what would be the right act to, to assess the situation, and how to be kind in, let's say, in setting boundaries from yourself and to others, to, let's say, stop the guilt. Beware of manipulators, because at the end of the day, we also need to remember only you have the power to say no. Standing up for yourself can also improve the self thinking, especially with that when it comes to your well being, the relationship you have for yourself to others. It is very also important to, let's say, express your thoughts, opinions, and also feelings clearly and respectfully, because this will also allow you to also, let's say, to set and maintain personal boundaries. I like that.
You've got a lot. That's one of the things about reading seeing people read the book. When the reviewers
Hmm.
came through, many of them had praises for the book. They gave me 5-star ratings, but each of the
Yes, and
reviewers
you deserve it.
seemed. Thank you very much. Each modesty forbids me from agreeing with you wholeheartedly. But each of the reviewers also came up with another little insight, another little picture that they had gotten out of the book, and that's one of the things that you realize when you tell a story or something. There are a lot of dimensions to it, and sometimes it's very nice to see the reader pick up on some of the dimensions that maybe you didn't
Right.
even intend, but were out there just by virtue of the fact that you've told the story. So that's also
Exactly.
very gratifying. It's
Especially when someone can really relate to the book as well.
well, yes. I don't know how many people can relate to being a werewolf, but you can relate to a darker side of yourself that might or might not be there.
Exactly. Yes, Edward. And you know what, Edward? Yes, it was really an interesting discussion, Edward. Thank you so much for again giving us this opportunity to be with you in this journey. And Edward, I also wanted you to take this advantage, this opportunity to also invite our viewers for your, for your upcoming book signing for the LA Times Festival of Books. So yeah, take
Yes.
the
Yes.
stage.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
All right. Yeah. So everyone, for those viewers out there, yes, Mr. Edward Lipinski will be having his book signing in LA Times Festival of Books, and that will be on April 22nd to the 23rd.
Yeah.
And that will be in University of Southern California, Los Angeles, USC campus. And yes, viewers, I'd like to invite you to be there because again, this is going to be your chance to know him more as an author, and of course, more information about his book. So yes, again, Edward, thank you so much for gracing with us today and choosing Readers Magnet family to be
Yeah.
part of this journey. So yes, everyone, Mr. Edward Lipinski, author of the book Werewolf on Madison Avenue. His book is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and of course his website, that would be edwardlipinski.com. And please, everyone, you may also follow him on all the social media platform he has. Thank you so much, Edward. Oh, I'm sorry?
Reader's Magnet is also publishing another book called Visions of Destiny, and I hope to have that out by the LA book. I'm not sure where it is right now, but the editing is done. The book cover, Reader's Magnet has created a really fantastic book cover for it.
Ooh, so we got something brewing here.
Okay, for 2 books.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Edward. So yes, that's also the things that you need to check out, guys, for the upcoming book of Mr. Edward Lipinski. And yes, Edward, again, thank you so much. And as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you take care.